Hi everyone, welcome to the video today. So I've been thinking about something that I have been working on, but I hadn't really connected it to I'll just say the bigger story of my journey, but ultimately to all of our journeys until like a week or two ago. And I want to share what I have been experiencing lately and some of the information that has come through for me on this, and maybe help you take away a bit of I don't want to say an exercise, but yeah, kind of an exercise, because as we know, we're here to do the work. As tough as some of that can be, and also as distracted as we can be on, following through with a lot of that just because of our human lives, right? So we're really learning how to blend the spiritual journey, which is the human journey, but we've kind of lost that, right? So now we're learning to bring the spiritual journey in with the human journey, right? And so we are creating that, and we're refinding that. So this has to do with growing our consciousness, the journey to higher consciousness. And what really is very prevalent out there, not only just in the spiritual community, but in general, is this idea of, the best way to say it, they said, is just say the escaping from ourselves to find higher consciousness or other experiences. Now, mind you, this is not discounting these. However, they're meant to be more as tools, not the actual, I'll just say, end goal. So we have a tendency to one degree or another, not all of us, but in our collective, to look at things like, I'm just going to throw out a few, like ayahuasca journeys, any kind of like astral travels, or even just like communication with our guides and our angels. Kind of the out there kind of thing of like, we want that. We want those mystical experiences. We want the connection. We want to experience the out there, the galactic, again, the astral travel, the shift in the experiences we have in our mind through things like ayahuasca, etc. Through those things that are tools. However, one of the things that I've realized is oftentimes we can get lost in that part, thinking that to one degree or another, thinking that is our higher consciousness, that we're growing in consciousness by doing those things. However, the real rubber meets the road journey to higher consciousness is the work we don't want to do. It's the hard work day to day, and how we display higher consciousness in our behavior, in our everyday, as the person that we are, to others, to ourselves, in our actions each day, what we present out to others. It's that internal higher consciousness that then gets to be presented out each day. It's how we live our day-to-day life in a higher consciousness state. Now, those other opportunities that I talked about that are more, I'll just say, kind of external to ourselves, right? They are tools, or they're add-ons. This is what they just said. They just said they're add-ons. Oh, they're the nice to haves. They're the glitter. Okay, they just said they're the glitter. Right, they are the glitter. But where we are to do our work and to display our higher consciousness, our growth in that, is in our day-to-day. Think about it. If we believe we are reaching a higher consciousness state through our knowings and our understandings and our travels, astral travels, and our medicinal experiences, and sound books, all those things, right? Which are wonderful. If we think that's our higher consciousness and we continue to operate in the same way, we're not in a higher consciousness state. We're not growing in our higher consciousness state. So I got thinking about this the other day. What are examples of day-to-day living in higher consciousness. And some of these I'm going to give you a couple examples from my journey, but they may seem very simplistic, but I'm going to tell you they are really building blocks for so much more of our growth in that area of higher consciousness where we are actually displaying ourselves in a new way each day, whether it's with ourselves or with others. So I'm going to give you a couple examples, things I noticed, and especially the ones that are really hard for me. And then I'll give you the exercise, which probably is going to seem obvious after I tell you my situation. So I love to garden. I have a huge garden. It's well established, good 20 years of creating my own landscapes and pollinator gardens and whatnot. But there's a lot of maintenance, and I always am doing different things to it each year. And as spring comes, I'm super excited to get back outdoors because our Iowa winters can be tough, and it's just winter in general, and nothing grows. That said, when spring comes, I have this whole idea of, kind of the fairy tale idea of just being out in the garden and, wandering through it and loving everything I see and really connecting in. And I'm going to connect in with all the plants and the flowers and really feel it and see it. However, what happens every single time, and I can tell this is deeply ingrained and embedded in me, and this is where you're going to be able to find where you get tripped up on this, of being conscious day to day, are the patterns and the things that you're going to notice when you pick the one thing to work on and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I do this in other places too. So what I do is I'll go out and I'm on a mission every single day. And I've got to find a way past this, because what starts to happen is, particularly like in gardening, you can lose your enjoyment of it because it becomes a project or a mission of getting stuff done. Now, we, particularly in the West, are very enculturated into achieving and accomplishing and with a goal in mind and getting things done. So we're often focused on the goal. And again, this goes to the now moment. We miss the now moment. So what's happening with me, and this just was so profound when I realized it, because I was literally, all these years, I started my awakening in 2016, but this did not connect with me until literally these last few weeks. I realized when I was out there and then I would be done. I would be doing my work, cutting things back or checking things, planting things. It was with intent of getting it done, not the beauty of doing it, noticing and really connecting with the essence of the plants, with the land, with the ground, with the beauty, seeing it with different eyes, with higher consciousness eyes. No, still not doing that, right? I have to very specifically say to myself, all right, we're going to go out there and we're going to really look at things with depth. And you can still do the work, right? But you're doing it very differently. You're doing it with loving intent. You're doing it with grace, with beauty, with understanding the connection that we have to, in my example, to the plants and the land. But what do I do every single time? And you're going to notice the feeling too. You got to pick your thing, right? Well, you got to decide where it is you're not operating in a higher consciousness state, where you're just kind of plowing through to get the thing done. Now, I know we have a lot of things we just have to get done and do, but you're going to find your spot. I can almost guarantee you, where it's like you're just going through the thing to get it done and you've missed the beauty. Now, I know a lot of our tedious tasks day to day aren't full of beauty. I'm talking, we can use any of those, right? Because we can find beauty in about anything. Just want you to know that, even the most mundane task, and it'll make your life so much more enjoyable, especially with those mundane kinds of things. But I'm thinking, like when we think about gardening, it's like, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to connect with the land, connect with the plants. But what I'm doing is I'm going out there, and I am not connecting in with the trees, the plants, any of that. I'm very task-oriented, task-driven. And what I find, and this is key, and I think you're going to notice this, is when I'm done, I'm like, oh, good, I'm done. What? Oh, good, I'm done. Well, all winter long, I'm just pining for spring, right? I mean, I love my winter, but looking forward to spring and going to really connect in and just be part of all that experience. I'm not part of that experience at all. I'm not using any kind of higher consciousness other than I do love my plants, but I'm not imbuing any kind of high energy. I'm not, like I said, feeling the essence of the thing I'm doing in the now moment, really seeing the plant, really seeing what I'm digging. You're doing the same action, but it's how you perceive it. It's how you think of it. It's the intent you have. And so what I do is I go out there. This happens every day, at least a couple times a day, where I have yet to get myself fully through the yard. This sounds pathetic, but I'm guaranteeing you're probably going to find something in your journey. And I'm going to give you another example too, where I will come out and go, oh my God, I did it again. I did it again. It takes a huge shift away from this accomplishment-oriented way of living, having to achieve and then missing the now moment of the things that bring you the most grace and beauty in your life that you enjoy the most. I'm not enjoying it. I'm enjoying it to the point of, well, I'll just say okay, so this is the thing. I'm enjoying it to the point of, oh, it's getting just the way I want it. Okay, so that's kind of like that perfectionism attitude, right? I need to step back from that. I need to go, wait a minute. Let's take this section of the garden, which I'm going to go do this when I'm done here. This section of the garden, and I'm going to look. I'm not going to trim anything. But I'm going to go out and I'm going to look at each plant. I'm going to connect spiritually with each plant in a section of my garden. I'm going to really look at it good. I'm going to understand it. I'm going to look at its blooms, look at its blossoms, look at its growth, understand what it is, really feel it. Rather than what I've been doing, which is a cursory overview to just get the work done. Not because I hate it, because I don't. It's just this, I love it. But the point is I'm ingrained in the way I am in the way, I don't want to say I was raised, but my whole adult life was about, 30 years in the work world will do that to you. Of like, especially with big companies, and we all are doing this. Achieve. Get to the goal. Don't worry about what's happening in the now moment. Just get the stuff done to get here. And then we translate that into our personal lives. So what I really want you to do is take a look at where are you doing that with the things that are of beauty, that you may just not be really basically being on the receiving end of all that can be brought to us as a result of being more highly conscious in our day-to-day activities. So I have another one for you. And we'll talk about your exercise here in a minute. The other one is personal relationships. And this is with family. I've noticed this primarily with my mother. Yes, primarily with my mother. This doesn't happen really with anyone else. And you probably in your life have one family member, I don't want to say that will challenge you the most. And I don't mean in an actual personal way that you don't get along. I'm talking about challenge you in how you perceive them, how you react to them, how you communicate with them. And my mom tends to be that energetically. We can come together, and it's kind of that initial few hours where it's like our energies are like getting used to each other, and then we're fine. Because we do get along well. We travel a lot together. However, what I noticed, we just got done with vacation, is oh my God, I can get so pulled into the old ways of being unconscious. Again, this is where your higher consciousness growth comes from, is being able to recognize where you're not conscious in your conversations. What patterns are you bringing into your day-to-day that you've always done? And it sometimes is even hard to recognize them. This is the deep, deep work of growing your consciousness. It's the day-to-day yucky, mucky stuff that's not fun and that we have to spend time on that we don't want to spend time on. And I've said this 3 times now. I almost guarantee you that everybody's going to have at least one thing. You have to. That's just how it works, right? And sometimes I get this sense, they just said the word escapism. Okay, so and I'm not saying we're all doing this. I'm saying this is a potential, is that we can escape into this idea of finding higher consciousness somewhere else, right? Through our medicinal journeys, our healings, or whatever, or our astral travels, all the things I just mentioned, right? But it's goes back to this internal journey and being very consciously aware of the things that you're getting tripped up on, and that your patterns are still the same, and that you're not growing in conscious awareness of these things. This is key. This is where the rubber meets the road in the spiritual journey. It's how you behave and act and are as a person day to day. We're here as a human to be able to display this growth to others, but we got to identify where our problems are first. So with my mom, for example, I notice what I do is I get triggered on dumb stuff, but it's just who she is. It's nothing. It's just because, it doesn't fit into my, way of either thinking or talking or things that are interesting. And I start thinking, well, are you just an impatient person and you just want everything your way? I mean, I'm really doing a look in the mirror kind of thing here. Because here's the thing, on all of these, you're going to feel some discomfort. Okay. You're going to, the things that are of patterns where you're not operating in higher consciousness, you're going to feel discomfort if you're connected in enough to know. But then it's identifying, oh God, that's what this is. So like the unease of me reacting, okay, in all the ways I probably always have with my mom, right? And I don't mean in every conversation, but I'm talking, and we know how this works, right? Like things that we're sensitive to and it's like, okay, hold on. This is where I'm tripping up. I need to reframe myself. I need to now go into my next conversation, and this is what it takes too. You got to be really aware and say like, okay, for example, my mom's coming to visit this next Thursday for the weekend. We're going to have a wonderful weekend. Got to go into a Broadway show. We got an art festival in town. It's going to be super cool. Got a lot of neat restaurants, and I'm really looking forward to it. And we're going to have a great time. However, what I'm going to do is, because I've got to do this, is I have to be so aware. You got to be on point, because you're going to find that when you're not on point, you're going to just fall right back into that pattern. Now, we all do this to one degree or another with something, and usually people, right? So anyway, my plan is to like literally remind myself that morning and I'm just going to have to be the observer to everything I do. All right. So there got to be two of me. Right. And we've talked about this before, where when the person is speaking, okay, then when the other person is speaking, we have to create space between us and and what they just said and our reaction, right? Because if we don't have time to breathe, we're just going to fall into that pattern again, right? We need, especially with these things where we are patterned in and that don't serve us any longer, that make us feel icky when we're done, right? So pulling yourself away, being able to breathe and observe and go, okay, wait, this is where I get stuck lots of times. I mean, this is a quick kind of thought process. Okay, this is where I get stuck. How can I react differently? How can I communicate differently? Or do I communicate at all? What do I do? Got to change it up. But the first thing is recognizing this, where you're not highly conscious in your day-to-day, just like I am when I get into conversations, with my mom, as an example. And a lot of our, I'll just say areas that this can happen in is with close family members, okay? Because we just get used to operating in the old way, highly unconscious, and that pattern continues. But it typically is going to feel uncomfortable if you're aware. But lots of times we've gotten so used to those patterns, we can't even be aware. So this is how tough it can be sometimes, all right? So again, we're talking about growing your consciousness in your human journey, because that's where the rubber meets the road. This is the important part, is how do you display? How are you growing in your consciousness in the human form, not out there? Yes, those are tools and those are all wonderful, but we're meant to grow, because how else are we going to change the collective journey, right? I mean, if we're all hanging out there, and I'm not dissing any of this, mind you, I think you get my point, right? They keep saying the idea is escapism, like we're finding the higher consciousness out there, right? And that's all wonderful and it's cool to have those experiences, but that is those are the accoutrements to the journey. The core is what we do with it day to day in our daily lives. And we have 10,000 opportunities every single day to raise our consciousness in how we behave. But the journey to actually understanding that is not that easy. And then the journey to being able to know it, but then follow through on it, like with my gardening. And so what I've taken to, and you guys might want to consider this. Well, let me give you your exercise. What I highly suggest is for you to sit down. And this won't take long, but it's so purposeful. Or to be able to observe yourself doing it and then make the list. Where are you having things like I'm telling you about happen in your life? Where are those things? And then when they happen again, what are you going to do differently? You got to first identify, okay? And then recognize when it's coming up again, and then modify. I don't even know what I just said. Identify, recognize, and modify. And then as you modify, it's going to be time after time, and you're going to slip up, but you're going to feel so much better about this, about how you are growing in your growing in the way that we're meant to grow in this spiritual journey, where it's the human that is the human day to day is where we are displaying our higher consciousness or not. Okay. The other thing I would suggest is, okay, so make your list. I would say just do 3 things at the most. You do not want to overwhelm yourself, okay? Because I'm sure we all have more than 3. And many of us may have been already working on this, but must be a late bloomer in this category if that's the case for all of you. Anyway, needless to say. But this is the drilling down, getting into the nits and grits, right? Getting into the nits and grits of where are you trying, where is it that the dust is still in the corners, right? All this wonderful work we've done, well, we still have things. And this is one of the things that I've noticed for myself, and I really wanted to toss this out to you today. Another thing to do is when you have one of these activities and you're going to, I don't even know what the 3 things were I just said. Sorry, this is what happens when I channel. What you can do is you can do this, or you can have your team, if you're connected, feeling connected with your angels and your guides, because I hear mine. I just ask them to grade me. I'm like, okay, I'm going home this weekend. I'm going to go see my mom for 3 days, as an example. I want you to grade me every single day at the end of the day. What grade did I get? And they're kind of harsh. I'm not kidding you. And so I get C's a lot. Anyway, that's a great way to do this. And you can grade yourself too, obviously. But A, B, C, D, E, F. Or E, F. A, B, C, D, F. Why did we never have an E? Anyway, A, B, C, D, and F. And you can do all the minuses and pluses that you want. But it's a really good way to make this a process for you to work on. So grading yourself, like for me, I'm going to go out. I'm going to ask my team. I'm going to go out now in the garden. And I'm going to connect. Because see, this is the other thing. When you're in your head a lot, this is hard to do. I'm in my head a lot. That's one of my very struggles, I'll say, in this journey, is me being in my head a lot. And when you're in your head a lot, you can automatically go right back to being in your head when you're trying to be conscious and in the now moment and, focused on the plant. But you can get back in your head so fast that it just takes you down the rabbit hole again. So I'm going to go out. So keep that in mind. And it's because it's a little bit different with each of the scenarios, like the one with the relationship, or the one in the case of like an activity that you're doing, like my gardening. So the grading is a wonderful way to kind of give yourself a sense of how you're doing, and you can ask them. At least in my case, I'm pretty harsh on myself, but they're like, yeah, try again. So with that, I would say to you, really think about how you are growing your higher consciousness day to day. And again, I should have mentioned this earlier. This is less of, how do I want to say this? This is more of what you display day to day, okay? What's coming out of your behavior, not so much of, and I'm going to make this up, like looking on the other side of the world and seeing what's going on and feeling compassion, okay? Yes, you're going to feel like this is about what's your behavior like? What are you doing day to day? What are your actions like, right? So take a look at that. See how you feel about that exercise. I have a huge journey on this with those 2 areas. But see, here's the thing. I'm not going to bite off more than I can chew at this point because I'm struggling enough with these 2. Oh, I know there are other places this is all happening too. But I don't, I've got enough going on. I need to just kind of take this as it goes and just give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself, because those of us with perfectionism tendencies, we don't want to. This journey is difficult enough as it is, and yes, it's full of grace and beauty. However, it's difficult. We all know that. We got a lot going on energetically, as we know, with, oh my God, these solar flares. And so you just got to give yourself grace. But at the same time, look at this as a project for yourself, and think of what you're doing. You're growing in your consciousness, because what it really is how are you operating as a human day to day, to yourself and to others. And so I hope that this has been helpful to you on your journey forward. Again, it's not the sexy part of spiritual awakening or spiritual growth. It's just not. Being able to spend all our time, doing those other things that are just magical, right, are wonderful. But they're just opportunities for us to have those experiences. But the rubber meets the road, where you are literally, as the human being, displaying a different level of behavior, patterns, the way you ultimately feel about how you've reacted, behaved, operating in your day-to-day. That's where you're going to notice the difference, and that's where you're going to feel like a new person. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel, a distance energy healer, and a spiritual awakening mentor, and I help guide you along your spiritual journey so that you can better understand how you can navigate forward and grow in the spiritual journey. So reach out, purplerainhealing.com, if you would like to work with me. Again, thank you so much for being here. Feel free to make comments about some of the things that you may identify after this, but I do really feel that this is an important topic for us to consider. Very important topic. And reach out if you'd like, and or leave some comments, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for being here.